What's going on, everybody? Rob Ferretti here, and this is a video I'm inserting, and not that I have like a consistent upload schedule, but I'm inserting now because it's timely, and I've had a bunch of people reach out to me. I guess I'm sort of the go-to guy if somebody's got a question about rentals, Turo, things like that, and I've gotten at least 3 or 4 emails about, hey, what's up with the liability here? If I rent my car on Turo and something like this happens, what's going on? And what am I talking about? So there were 2 terror attacks, and you read the news now, and it's like both terror attacks, or at least allegedly. What we know now is there's 1 terror attack and 1 Tesla bomb in Las Vegas. Both somewhat connected. They're still piecing it together. But at the end of the day, the one connection that they do have is they were both rented on Turo. The one guy had a pickup truck. The other rented out of Texas on Turo. And when I say rented out of Texas, anytime I use the word rent and Turo in the same sentence, it's because Turo acts as a rental company. Whether it's a peer-to-peer car sharing network, the guy, the terrorist, has no affiliation with the guy who gave him the car, other than the fact that he exchanged money through the Turo platform to drive this guy's truck into a crowd of people. Now, the other one was also a Turo rental, which is a Cybertruck that blew up in front of the Trump National Hotel in Las Vegas. Now, you're going to ask, and everyone loves to be like, well, but why Turo? Why are these guys renting on Turo? What is going on? Why is this connected? Is this Turo's, is Turo going out of business? Let's slow it down real quick. Let's focus on the stuff we know. There's always a lot of misinformation that goes on out there. I'm going to try to clear up some of it and show you where the liability lies, who the winners are, who the losers are. First off, the losers are anyone that was an innocent person that got hurt here. Let's call that what it is. The FBI has listed the attack in New Orleans as a terror attack. So clearly they did a bang-up job identifying that the guy with the ISIS flag on the back of his pickup truck running over people on New Year's Eve and then shooting at cops with an automatic weapon or whatever he had was a terrorist. There you go. The other one, maybe not so clear, another guy who also served at Fort Bragg with the first guy, but also early reports at least, are that this dude was like a very patriotic, big Trump lover, and also a Rambo type, like a very skilled soldier. So the crude bomb that exploded probably wouldn't have been his doing if he was going to go down that route. Who knows? So I don't know if that one's also been labeled a terror attack yet, but we will see how that develops. But it's easy for people to get sensationalized and jump to the most eye-grabbing headline they can, but let's let the facts play out a little bit. But these are the 2 incidents that are connected by both of these guys having Turo cars. Why do they both have Turo cars? Is it because these guys were unable to rent cars elsewhere? Is it they didn't own a car? What's the case? It's probably just coincidence. And you know me, I'm banned from Turo for life, so I've got no allegiance to them, but I'm also not going to do them wrong and put a blame on them for anything that they didn't do. I've always commented on their policies and how they implement them and stuff like that. But here you're talking about something where 2 guys just happen to rent cars, and they are also from the same, they served at the same military base at Fort Bragg, both American citizens, and nothing preventing them from getting a car by any other means, by stealing a car, by renting it from Hertz or Avis or Enterprise or Sixt, going through Turo, borrowing their friend's car, stealing their mom's car. There was 100 different avenues they could have gone to get the car. And it's not going to fall on anyone else, and it shouldn't fall on anyone else to be responsible for the actions of somebody. And that's pretty key. And you got to realize our legal system sucks. Everybody gets sued for anything, and you got money, I'm going to sue you because you have more money than that guy, and everyone wants to get paid. Turo's probably going to end up paying something out here just because of the PR mess that they got dragged into. Because now it's like, well, the guy, where'd he get the car? Oh, it came from there. That's effectively what happened here. Is you had guys that lawfully got cars through a car sharing network, and they used them for bad purposes. And that's one of the exposures that you're always going to have in a situation like that. You can't control when you give somebody a car what's going to happen with it, or what they're going to do with it, or if they're going to go rob a bank, or whatever the situation is. You're not enabling that. You're just giving them a car. If Turo was providing a car to somebody who otherwise wouldn't have been able to get a car, they didn't have a driver's license, they didn't have insurance, license, they weren't legal citizens, or something like that, where they wouldn't have been able to get it through Hertz, that's a different story. But that's not the case here. And I am a believer that the rental company Tesla is not responsible for building a Cybertruck because this guy blew it up, right? Like, there's not liability that extends past the actions of the user, and you're not enabling them. That's like going after the gun manufacturer for somebody shooting somebody. Like, you got to stop the liability at some point in time. Now, where is Turo's exposure? Because Turo does provide insurance. It doesn't require customers to bring their own insurance. They can elect to use Turo's insurance. And a lot of the owners, they choose different tiers as to how to insure their cars. But there's a big caveat in insurance, and you look at any policy, the policy on my house, it always like removes acts of terrorism. So that's going to come into play here, because they leave that like, look, acts of God, acts of terrorism, anything that may be a big claim, they try to mitigate their risk so it doesn't impact their bottom line. So they just exclude it. And that's sort of what Turo does. They have something where the terrorism is noted, but it's listed into like an arbitrary category where they'll make a determination. That's sort of considered the catastrophic event, where they'll make a determination as to what to pay out. So it's completely arbitrary in their court. They can choose to say no, and the guy who's got the car personally, whether he's insured by somebody else, that probably has an exclusion for terrorism. So it's very impactful that this was considered a terrorist event. It's like a free pass for the insurance companies, and theoretically, like in a perfect U.S. system, that's where the government steps in and says, like, oh, another terrorist event. Let's us handle this. Let's share that burden amongst the taxpayers and not amongst the insurance companies and the private companies that are making all sorts of money and benefiting. Like, it's I don't know. It's a tough system that we live in. But at the end of the day, the one could be an insurance claim, especially if it was not a terrorist act, but maybe the guy was targeted. So it was almost it was a criminal act, but it wasn't a terrorist act. The guy with the ISIS flag and the manifesto or whatever he's got, terrorism. That's a label that you're going to get all day long for doing that. This other guy, he could have been, hey, can you mind just driving this truck over for me? And I'll meet you out front of the Trump Hotel. So, and he knew the guy was a big Trumper. So this guy may not have even been in on it. I don't know. I'm not going to instantly jump on the bandwagon of this guy's a total piece of crap, but he may be. I don't know, but I will reserve judgment until more facts are made available. But at the end of the day, that one may not be an act of terrorism. That may be a murder, which is a crime, but it is a very public one, given the fact that it's on the same day and may or may not be connected to the other guy. But the liability may be in place, and Turo may have to pay out on that. Turo will likely pay out to the owners just to sort of try to brush this under the rug as soon as possible. They've been trying to go public since 21, 22, something like 3 or 4 years ago. Who knows where that's going to be? But they do acknowledge their risk is the fact that there are unknown liabilities in renting cars that can be used in crimes, especially that they don't own the cars and they're now providing the insurance for the cars, and they do have liability through Allstate or Travelers, one of the two, I think. But at the end of the day, there is exposure there. Any rental company, there is nothing special about Turo that brings them into this. It just happens to maybe, and like, I'm curious about, like, did the guy select the insurance? Like, he knew he was about to do this. Did he select, like, yeah, I'll take full coverage? Or did he select no insurance? He's like, I'm not going to be here to deal with this anyway. That was a suicide mission. So those are the things I'm more curious about. But the exposure is probably going to be limited to the vehicle, and it's going to cost more in damage control and PR than it would be to just write a check for both of those cars and be done with it. But they do have an out. Most insurance companies, if terrorism is involved, it's like, sucks to be you, dude. but that car is on you. They may try to mitigate their risk and use that money that they would pay out for the car for other line items pertaining to this, like a ad campaign to make them seem like better people, or that like everyone's like, oh, it's like Turo is the car of the terrorist now. Not necessarily. Like there was a guy with a plumbing truck that was in like some cartel or like in the Middle East or something like that, and they're riding through with like Joe's Plumbing on the side. It just was a stolen car, whatever, and it ended up in a third world country where bad things are happening. And next thing you know, that company's like, I didn't do anything. Like it's tough to be roped into something, but you have to put the blame where the blame belongs. The blame belongs on the people behind the acts, the guy who blew up the bomb, whoever that was, and then the guy who took the truck, planned this out, and executed on this act. So do I think there's a lot of exposure? Do I think you should not rent out your car, or you should not have a rental car company, or that there is additional exposure? No. I mean, there bad things happen, whether somebody gets in the car drunk and crashes into somebody, or whether somebody blows up the car or tries to jump the Grand Canyon. Whatever may happen with these cars, the liability shouldn't fall unless you're enabling somebody to do something that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do, but selling them a product is not enabling them to do something, right? Selling somebody a steak with a knife and then they stab the guy at the table next to them, that's not your fault for giving them a knife. Rob Ferretti, thank you for watching. I hope that clears up a little bit and answers some of the questions you guys had. I will see you tomorrow. Happy New Year. On a very somber note.